Hi, I'm Anya. I'm 37, and I live in Leipzig. Maybe you've been there? It's a city with a lot of history, a lot of change, and a lot of quiet corners. My life used to feel like one of those quiet corners, pleasant enough on the surface, but hiding layers of complexity and, frankly, a lot of unprocessed pain. I work as a graphic designer. These days, I run my own agency, which is a sentence I still sometimes say out loud just to hear how it sounds. It's something I built from absolutely nothing, fueled by desperation and a quiet rage you can only understand if you've ever been told you're suddenly obsolete. 2 years ago, my world tilted on its axis. I was let go from my job right after returning from maternity leave. My boss, a man whose tie knots were always too tight, told me clients wanted fresh energy. It was code, of course. Code for, you're 35, you just had a baby, and we think you're not going to prioritize this job the way we want. It felt like a physical blow, but looking back, it was just the first domino. The firing, as brutal and unfair as it was, wasn't the deepest betrayal. Not by a long shot. See, I'd spent my entire life trying to earn love and acceptance from the people who were supposed to give it to me unconditionally. My family, my mother and my sister, Clara. They were the real architects of the cage I lived in, built with bricks of expectation, guilt, and constant, draining need. The job loss forced me onto a path where I had to rely on myself, and in doing that, I finally saw the true cost of my family's dynamic. The relentless favoritism, the financial and emotional exploitation that had become so normal I didn't even recognize it as abuse. I was the capable one, the quiet one, the one who always said yes, and they took and took until there was almost nothing left. It took hitting rock bottom professionally while simultaneously juggling the bone-deep exhaustion of new motherhood and the mounting pressure from my family to realize that being the good girl was actually destroying me. It's a slow poison, people-pleasing in a toxic system. You lose yourself so gradually you don't even notice until one day you look in the mirror and wonder who the stranger is staring back. My story is about that slow loss, that painful recognition, and the fight to reclaim not just my career, but my very identity. And then, just when I thought I had a handle on things, the universe decided to add a twist of dark irony. The ex-boss who fired me for not having fresh energy, he applied for a job at my agency. Life has a funny, or perhaps cruel, sense of humor, doesn't it? But that's just a small part of it. The real story is what happened inside me, the lines I finally drew, the silence I finally broke. It's about the cost of saying yes when you mean no, and the freedom that comes when you finally choose yourself, even if it means standing alone. Stick around if you've ever felt unseen, unheard, or taken for granted by the people you love the most. Maybe my story will resonate with you. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I remember sitting at the kitchen table in our small apartment in Leipzig, the one with the window that looked out onto the courtyard where neighborhood children sometimes played. My daughter, Lena, was a few weeks old, a tiny, warm weight in my arms, her breathing soft and even. I was on maternity leave, suspended in that strange, beautiful, terrifying liminal space of new motherhood. The days blurred into a cycle of feeding, changing, soothing, and snatching moments of rest. My old life at the design agency felt distant, a memory from another era. I missed the hum of the office, the creative buzz, the predictable structure. But mostly, I missed feeling confident and valued outside the realm of keeping a tiny human alive. The email came on a Tuesday morning. The subject line was innocuous. Catch-up meeting request. My boss, Hirsch Schmidt, wanted to meet. I assumed it was a standard check-in, maybe to discuss my return date or workload. I hadn't heard much from the office since I left, just polite emails from HR. Part of me had worried about being forgotten, replaced, but I'd pushed those fears down. They were just insecurities, right? I was a good designer, reliable, efficient. I'd been there for 7 years. The meeting was brief, held over video call. Hirsch Schmidt's face, usually ruddy and prone to nervous tics, was uncharacteristically still. He didn't ask about Lena. He didn't ask how I was adjusting to motherhood. He got straight to the point, his voice flat, professional. Anya, we've had some strategic shifts since you left. Client needs are changing. They're looking for fresh energy, he paused, avoiding my eyes. We've decided to move in a different direction. Your position is being made redundant. Redundant. The word hung in the air like a bad smell. Redundant. After 7 years. After working late, covering for colleagues, bringing in successful projects. Redundant because I had dared to have a baby. The fresh energy line was a thin veil, easily seen through. At 35, I was suddenly too old, too motherly? Too much of a liability with potential future needs? My heart hammered against my ribs. My hands started to shake. Lena stirred in my arms, sensing my distress. Redundant? I managed, my voice barely a whisper. Herr Schmidt, I've been a loyal employee. I've always met my targets. He shifted uncomfortably. It's not a reflection on your performance, Anya. It's just the market. We need a different profile now. Someone more available than a new mother, he meant. The injustice of it was a physical ache. The agency had a policy for maternity leave, legal protections, but they found a way around it, cloaked in corporate jargon about strategy and energy. I ended the call numbly. I put Lena down in her Moses basket and walked to the window, staring out at the mundane courtyard. The world hadn't stopped. People were walking their dogs, a delivery truck rumbled past. But my world had just shattered. My identity, so tied up in my work, felt ripped away. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through the numbness. How would I provide for Lena? How would I start over? That night, lying awake while Lena slept, the shame and anger simmered. But beneath that, a familiar feeling stirred. The feeling of being disposable, of not being quite enough. This wasn't the first time I'd felt this way. It was a feeling I'd grown up with, carefully cultivated by my family. My sister, Clara, was 2 years older than me. From the moment I was born, it seemed, she was the sun and I was maybe the moon, reflecting a pale imitation of her light. Clara was vibrant, loud, demanding, and utterly captivating to our mother. I was quiet, bookish, compliant. I learned early that the easiest way to exist in our household was to be low maintenance, helpful, and never, ever cause trouble. To be everything Clara wasn't, but also to facilitate everything Clara needed. Mother doted on Clara. Clara's smallest achievements were celebrated with fanfare. Mine were met with a nod or a swift change of subject. Clara's problems, no matter how self-inflicted, became family crises that required everyone's attention and, often, Anya's practical assistance. Clara needs help with her rent. Anya, she's struggling, Mother would say, her voice heavy with concern, looking at me expectantly, knowing I always had a bit saved. Clara's car broke down, she needs a ride, and I would drop everything. It wasn't asked as a favor, it was presented as a necessity, a given, because Clara needed. And Anya could. Growing up, our small apartment felt like a stage where Clara performed her life, and Mother was her primary audience and biggest fan. I was part of the stage crew, the quiet helper ensuring the production ran smoothly. Clara didn't have to be responsible, I would pick up the slack. Clara didn't have to save, I would lend her money she rarely repaid. Clara didn't have to think about the future, she lived in the present, and Mother smoothed over the consequences, often by leaning on me. I remember saving up for months as a teenager to buy a proper, good-quality set of art supplies. It felt like a huge investment, a step towards my dream of being a designer. The day I bought them, I showed them to Mother, proud. She glanced at them briefly. "Oh, lovely, dear. Is that expensive? Clara's been wanting a new jacket. Did you see it? We must think about getting it for her birthday." My art supplies were never mentioned again. A week later, I found Clara using my most expensive paintbrushes with cheap poster paint, ruining them. When I tearfully confronted her, she just shrugged. Mother sighed, "Oh, Anya, don't make such a fuss. They're just brushes." Clara didn't mean any harm, my feelings didn't matter. Clara's convenience did. This pattern continued into adulthood. I put myself through university, working part-time jobs, taking out small loans. Clara drifted in and out of various courses, funded by mother's savings, never finishing anything. When I got my first good job at the design agency, mother was pleased, but her praise was always tinged with a caveat. It's good you have a stable job, Anya. Not like poor Clara. She's still trying to find her path. Poor Clara became a constant refrain, justification for why she needed more support, more understanding, more resources that often came indirectly or directly from me. I bought my first car, a modest but reliable used model, with my own savings. A few months later, Clara's car, which mother had helped her buy, needed expensive repairs. Clara declared she couldn't afford it. Mother called me. Anya, Clara needs a car for her new job interview. Could she borrow yours for a week? It would be such a help. A week turned into 3. When I finally got it back, the interior was messy, there was a new scratch on the side, and the fuel tank was empty. Clara offered a casual, "Oh, thanks," and mother added, "See? It wasn't a problem, was it? You're so good at sharing, Anya." I earned a promotion at work. I told mother and Clara over Sunday dinner. Mother nodded. "Very nice, dear." So, Clara was telling me about this business idea she has. The conversation shifted instantly to Clara's vague, unformed plans, treated with immense seriousness by mother, while my tangible achievement was politely dismissed. My promotion meant I earned more, which in mother's eyes simply increased my capacity to be the family's financial safety net and go-to problem solver. The constant subtle reinforcement was that Clara was the one who needed protection, who was fragile, who deserved the easy path, and I was the strong one, the capable one, who could handle burdens and therefore should. My needs, my exhaustion, my own aspirations were secondary. They were luxuries I couldn't afford if I wanted to maintain my place, however small, in the family unit. Because despite everything, I desperately wanted their love and approval. I mistook their reliance on me for value, their demands for connection. So, when Herr Schmidt fired me, it wasn't just the professional rejection that stung. It was the echo of that lifelong feeling of being found wanting, easily discarded when no longer perfectly convenient. But this time, there was Lena. I couldn't afford to be the quietly suffering, compliant Anya anymore. I had a child who depended on me completely. Her future was now inextricably linked to my ability to stand on my own 2 feet. The fear was paralyzing at first. Money was tight. My severance wouldn't last forever. Applying for jobs felt futile. Who would hire a new mother who'd just been let go like that? One evening, scrolling through job boards while Lena slept fitfully, I saw an ad for a small freelance design project. It was for a local baker. Not glamorous, but it was something. I applied, poured everything into the proposal, and got it. That first project felt like a lifeline. I worked during Lena's naps, late into the night after she was asleep, fueled by lukewarm coffee and sheer determination. It was brutally hard. Juggling deadlines, client calls, designing, invoicing, all while navigating the fog of sleep deprivation and the relentless needs of an infant. Some days, I just cried at my desk, overwhelmed and lonely. There were no colleagues for a quick chat, no water cooler commiseration. It was just me, the glowing screen, and the quiet breathing of my daughter in the next room. But with each completed project, a small seed of confidence began to grow. I was good at this. Really good. Clients were happy. They referred me to others. The local baker project led to a referral for a larger regional business. That led to another. I was building something, piece by painstaking piece, in the quiet hours of the day and night. My little freelance gig, born out of desperation, was becoming a viable business. All the while, the family dynamic continued, oblivious to my struggle, or perhaps subtly capitalizing on it. I didn't tell Mother and Clara the full truth about losing my job at first. I said I was taking extended leave, exploring options. I couldn't bear their pity, or worse, their judgment. But when I finally told them I was freelancing, the reaction was underwhelming. Freelancing? Oh, so you're not going back to a proper job then? Mother asked, her tone implying this was a step down, a temporary hobby. Clara, predictably, saw my working from home as an opportunity. Oh, perfect. Since you're home all day, you can watch my dog when I go on holiday, or Anya, can you pick up my dry cleaning? You're always in town anyway, aren't you? My flexibility, hard-won and constantly stretched thin, was seen not as the demanding reality of building a business with a baby, but as boundless availability for their convenience. And the financial requests didn't stop, they increased. Clara needed money for a new apartment deposit, then for furniture, then for a business opportunity that sounded incredibly vague. Mother would call, detailing Clara's latest woes, always ending with, "She just needs a little help. Anya, you're doing so well now, aren't you? It wouldn't be a burden for you." My doing so well was entirely theoretical to them, based on the fact I wasn't begging them for money. They had no concept of the hours I was working, the stress I was under, the reinvestment needed to grow the business. They just saw a source. I continued to say yes, mostly. A smaller amount than they asked for, perhaps, hedging my bets, but still enough to feel the pinch, enough to resent it deeply. Why? Why couldn't I just say no? The fear of rejection was a powerful suppressor. The fear of being seen as selfish, uncaring. The deep-seated need for their approval, a habit decades in the making, was hard to break. I told myself I was helping Clara, helping Mother ease her worries. I told myself family is important, you help family. But the little voice of resentment grew louder with every yes. My business grew. I hired my first part-time assistant, another mother juggling work and family. We moved out of the small apartment into a slightly larger one with a dedicated office space. I started working with bigger clients, securing retainer contracts. The sleepless nights and constant grind were paying off. Anya Design Agency was becoming a real thing. But success on the outside didn't magically fix the broken dynamic on the inside. If anything, it intensified the pressure. "Since you're doing so well," became the preface to every request. Clara wanted a loan for a new car. Not a modest one, but a specific, expensive model she'd seen. Mother presented it to me like a done deal. "Clara needs 15,000 euros for a down payment. We thought you could help her out." 15,000 euros. It wasn't a small sum, not even for my growing business. It was capital I needed for expansion, for hiring, for building a buffer. And it was for a luxury item for Clara, not a necessity. I felt a cold dread spread through me. This wasn't helping, this was enabling, and it was directly impacting my security and Lena's future. "Mother," I started, trying to keep my voice even. We were on the phone. "That's a lot of money. I can't just give away 15,000 euros. The business needs that." Mother's tone shifted instantly, from cajoling to wounded. "Give away? Anya, she's your sister. She's family. She needs you. Don't tell me you can't afford it. We know you're practically rich now with your big clients." "I'm not rich, Mother. I run a business. There are expenses. Employees. And this is a loan, right? Will she pay it back? She still owes me from the last time." "Oh, don't be petty, Anya. It's family. What's a little money between sisters?" "Clara's under a lot of stress. This car would make her so happy. You don't want your sister to be unhappy, do you?" The classic guilt trip. Frame my reasonable concern as selfishness, my sister's desire as a critical need. Of course, I don't want her to be unhappy, but I can't just finance her lifestyle, Mother. It's not fair to me. I work hard for this money. And Clara works hard too. Just in different ways, Mother snapped, her voice rising. "You've always been so focused on money, Anya. Always so careful. Clara is more free-spirited. She needs support. We supported you. We supported you." That was the ultimate weapon. The implication that I owed them everything, including endless financial aid for Clara, for the crime of being born into their family. "How did you support me, Mother?" I asked, the question escaping before I could stop it. It wasn't accusatory, just genuinely curious. "What support?" I'd funded my own education, lived independently, never asked them for anything significant. Her silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Then ice. Is that what you think? After everything? After raising you? Feeding you? Clothing you? Is that what you think of your own mother? She twisted my question into a personal attack, a profound insult. Perhaps you've forgotten where you came from, Anya. Perhaps success has made you hard-hearted, thinking only of yourself. The conversation ended shortly after, a cold, heavy silence replacing the usual strained interactions. I didn't give Clara the money. I couldn't. It felt like the first real no I'd ever uttered about something significant, something that went against the core programming of my family role. The fallout was swift and painful. Clara stopped taking my calls. Mother was distant, her voice brittle when she did speak to me, filled with passive aggression and thinly veiled disappointment. Clara is so upset, Anya. This was really difficult for her, she'd say, implying my refusal was a cruel act. I was made to feel like a villain, a selfish, ungrateful daughter and sister, all because I refused to hand over a large sum of money I had earned through relentless effort. The emotional cost was immense. The silence from Clara felt like a punishment, designed to make me cave. Mother's disapproval was a constant, low-level hum of anxiety. I second-guessed myself constantly. Was I being too harsh? Was family really that important? Should I just give them the money to make it stop, to have peace? The decades of conditioning were hard to fight against. The need for their love, however conditional and hurtful, was deeply ingrained. I talked to my closest friend, Jana. She had been through her own struggles with family boundaries. Anya, she said gently, they are treating your business, your hard work, like their personal ATM. This isn't support, it's exploitation. You have every right to say no. Their reaction proves it's not about the money, it's about control and entitlement. They expect you to sacrifice for Clara endlessly. Her words were a bomb, but also a stark mirror. Exploitation. That was the word. It felt harsh, but true. My quiet competence, my willingness to help, had been twisted into an expectation that I would continuously bail out or fund my sister, with Mother's active encouragement and emotional manipulation. My value to them seemed directly linked to my usefulness and compliance. The tension simmered for months. The cold shoulder treatment continued. Then came the incident that became my true breaking point. It wasn't about money this time, but it felt like the culmination of everything. The favoritism, the disregard for my feelings, the expectation that I would always yield. Our grandmother, Mother's mother, passed away. She had lived a quiet life and didn't have significant assets. Her will was simple. Her small apartment was to be sold, and the proceeds divided equally between Mother and her two siblings. There was also a collection of antique porcelain figures that Mother had always loved, and a beautiful old grandfather clock. Mother decided that Clara should have the porcelain figures. They're delicate and beautiful, just like Clara, she announced to me, as if this was a perfectly natural decision, despite the fact that I also appreciated antiques and had more space for them. But I didn't argue. Porcelain figures, fine. It was the clock that mattered. The grandfather clock had stood in Grandmother's hallway for as long as I could remember. I loved its steady ticking, the chime on the hour. It felt like a keeper of time, a silent witness to family history. More importantly, Grandmother had once mentioned, years ago, that she thought it would suit my home one day. It wasn't a promise, just a passing comment, but it had stuck with me. When the time came to discuss what would happen to the clock, I finally spoke up. Mother, I said hesitantly, I know this might not be easy, but I would really love to have the clock. Grandmother once said. Before I could finish, Clara scoffed. You? The clock? Where would you even put it? It's huge. And besides, she added, tossing her hair, I think I should have it. It's much more my style. It would look amazing in my new place. Mother immediately sided with Clara. Oh, yes. Clara, it would be perfect for your new apartment. It's so chic, just like you, she turned to me, her face hardening slightly. Anya, be reasonable. It's far too big for your place. And honestly, Clara has always been more interested in decorative things. You're so practical. Practical. Dismissed again. My quiet appreciation, my memory of grandmother's words, my actual desire for the clock, none of it mattered. Clara wanted it, and therefore Clara should have it. Mother didn't even consider my request as valid. My preference, my connection to the object, was irrelevant compared to Clara's whim and Mother's desire to please her favorite. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't just about the clock. It was about the lifetime of being overlooked, of my feelings and desires being consistently trampled in favor of Clara's. It was the explicit declaration that I was practical, meaning unfeeling, undeserving of beauty or sentimentality, while Clara was deemed inherently worthy of whatever she wanted. It was the casual cruelty of it, the absolute certainty that I would simply back down, as I always did. My voice came out, shaky at first, then gaining strength. Actually, Mother, I do want it. And it would fit perfectly in my living room. Grandmother mentioned it to me years ago. Mother's eyes narrowed. Don't make things up, Anya. You're just being difficult. Clara wants it. Of course Clara wants it, I said, a bitter laugh escaping me. Clara always wants everything. And Clara always gets everything, doesn't she? No matter who it hurts, no matter who else might want or need something, the words tumbled out, years of suppressed anger and pain finally finding a voice. Clara gasped dramatically. Anya, how can you be so cruel? I can't believe you're making a fuss over a stupid clock when we're grieving grandmother. She started crying, fake tears I recognized instantly, designed to manipulate Mother. Mother rounded on me, her face contorted with fury. Anya, apologize to your sister. How dare you speak to her like that? After everything she's been through? You are being utterly selfish and insensitive. This is about family, about remembrance, not about your greedy wants. Greedy wants. Wanting one meaningful object from my grandmother was greedy. Expecting fairness was insensitive. The gaslighting was breathtaking. They twisted the narrative instantly, making me the villain for daring to express a desire that conflicted with Clara's. My greedy wants? I repeated, my voice trembling, but my resolve hardening with every word. You want to talk about greedy wants? How about the 15,000 euros Clara wanted for a car? How about all the times I've bailed her out, helped her, cleaned up her messes? How about you, Mother? How many times have you pressured me, guilt-tripped me into giving Clara money or help, always saying she needs it, you can afford it? When have either of you ever considered what I needed? What I could afford? What I wanted? I was shaking now, tears streaming down my face, not of sadness, but of pure, raw fury and pain. It felt like unleashing a floodgate that had been holding back a lifetime of hurt. It's always been about Clara, hasn't it? Always. I've spent my whole life trying to be the perfect, quiet, helpful daughter and sister, hoping maybe one day you'd see me, really see me, and value me for who I am, not just for what I can do for Clara. But you don't. You just see a resource to be tapped, a problem solver for Clara's endless dramas, someone who should quietly make herself smaller so Clara can shine brighter. Mother was pale, her mouth a thin line. Clara had stopped crying, staring at me with wide, shocked eyes, unaccustomed to seeing me break character. This clock, I choked out, gesturing towards it. This clock is just another example. My feelings, my connection to it, mean absolutely nothing compared to Clara deciding on a whim that it's her style. And you, Mother, you instantly agree, instantly dismiss me, because that's what you've always done. You have always favored her, always prioritized her needs and desires over mine, and you still do. Even now. That's not true. Mother protested weakly, but her eyes flickered, betraying the truth. It is true, I insisted, my voice firm despite the tears. It's the only truth I've ever known in this family. And I'm done. I'm done trying to earn your love. I'm done being the compliant one who sacrifices everything. I'm done being the backup plan, the ATM, the invisible sister. Clara can have the clock. She can have it all. Because I finally realized that what I wanted from you, real acceptance, real love, you were never going to give me anyway. Not as long as I was standing next to Clara. I picked up my coat, my hands still shaking. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending this is a healthy family dynamic. It's not. It's toxic, and I'm done poisoning myself with it. Anya, where are you going? Mother called out, her voice laced with a mix of anger and panic. I'm going home, I said, turning away. Home to my daughter. To the life I've built for her and for myself, without any help from either of you. I need space. A lot of space. And I walked out. Into the cold air, leaving behind the grandfather clock, the porcelain figures, the suffocating weight of years of unspoken resentment and pain. It was the hardest thing I had ever done, and also the most liberating. The silence on the drive home wasn't empty. It was filled with the echoes of my own voice, finally heard, finally acknowledged, at least by myself. The days and weeks that followed were difficult. Mother sent furious texts, then pleading ones, then guilt-tripping ones. Clara sent passive-aggressive messages through Mother, then ignored my existence completely again. The flying monkeys were deployed, distant relatives who called, subtly, or not so subtly, suggesting I was being too harsh, that family was everything, that I should forgive and forget. I held firm. I didn't engage with the guilt trips. I didn't defend myself. I sent simple, clear messages. I need space right now, I'm not discussing this. I muted their notifications. I focused on Lena, on my business, on rebuilding myself in the quiet space I had created. It hurt deeply. The silence was painful, a confirmation of my deepest fear, that without my compliance and usefulness, I was disposable to them. I grieved the family I wished I had, the mother-daughter relationship I craved, the sisterly bond that had never truly existed outside of my role as helper. It was a complex grief, mourning something that was never truly real. But alongside the pain came a profound sense of relief and clarity. The constant anxiety I had lived with for decades, the low-level hum of needing to manage their expectations and moods, began to dissipate. I felt lighter, as if a heavy weight I hadn't even fully recognized was being lifted. My energy levels improved. I was more present with Lena. My creativity flowed more freely in my work. The business thrived, not just because I was working hard, but because I wasn't draining my vital energy on the toxic family dynamic. It was during this period of intense personal upheaval and quiet rebuilding that the email landed in my inbox. Subject: Application for graphic designer position. Thomas Schmidt. My ex-boss. Thomas Schmidt. The man who had fired me 2 years ago for needing fresh energy after maternity leave. My stomach clenched, a jolt of disbelief shooting through me. He was applying for a job. At my agency. Anya Design Agency. I opened the application, my hands trembling slightly. There he was. His resume detailed his years of experience, the agencies he'd worked for, including the one where he'd fired me. He listed his skills, his portfolio link. The cover letter was standard, professional, expressing his admiration for my agency's work. The irony was not lost on me, and his desire to contribute to our dynamic team. Dynamic team. My team, built from scratch in the wreckage of his dismissal. Fresh energy. I looked around my small, bustling office. My 2 full-time designers, both incredibly talented women, one of whom also juggled work with raising 2 young children. My assistant, the other working mother. We were a dynamic team. A team built on mutual respect, understanding, and valuing people for their capabilities, not dismissing them for their life circumstances. The wave of emotions that washed over me was complex. There was shock, certainly. A flash of vindictive satisfaction. Look at me now, Herr Schmidt. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving, and he was looking for a job. But beneath that, surprisingly, there wasn't the burning desire for revenge I might have expected. Just a quiet sense of validation. His application was a stark, external marker of how far I had come. 2 years ago, I was sitting in a small apartment, terrified and betrayed, unsure how I would even pay the next month's rent. Now I was the boss, the one reviewing applications from experienced professionals, including the man who had tried to sideline me. He saw my success. He acknowledged it by seeking employment from me. It was a powerful moment, a mirror reflecting back my own resilience and capability. I didn't hire him, of course. Not out of spite, but because he wasn't the right fit. His experience was in a different niche than my agency had developed, and honestly, his dismissive attitude towards working mothers, which had directly impacted me, was not something I would ever allow into my team culture. I sent a polite, standard rejection email. Short, professional. No mention of our past connection. There was no need. The universe had delivered its message loud and clear. Handling Herr Schmidt's application felt almost easy compared to the emotional battle I had just fought and won with my family. The professional betrayal, while painful at the time, was clean. There were no tangled emotions, no decades of history, no desperate need for his approval. It was a transaction, a business decision, albeit an unfair one, and my success was the ultimate, elegant response. The family betrayal, however, had been a slow, insidious poison, reaching into the deepest parts of my identity and self-worth. Untangling from that had required cutting through layers of guilt, obligation, and ingrained patterns of behavior. In the months that followed my confrontation with Mother and Clara, the distance remained. It wasn't absolute estrangement, but it was minimal contact, polite and superficial when it occurred. There were no more demands for money, no more casual expectations of my free labor. The topics of conversation were limited to neutral subjects, Lena's milestones, the weather, brief updates on their lives that I listened to politely, but without the old urgency to engage or offer solutions. It felt strange at first, this quiet, this lack of drama, this absence of the constant pull on my resources, emotional and financial. I had to consciously learn how to exist without it, how to fill that space with my own needs and desires. I started setting boundaries in other areas of my life too, small ones at first, then larger ones. Saying no felt less terrifying the more I practiced it. Prioritizing my time, my energy, my well-being felt less selfish and more necessary. I invested more time in my friendships. I started exercising again, something that had fallen by the wayside during the chaos of new motherhood and business building. I allowed myself moments of rest without feeling guilty. I focused on being the best mother I could be to Lena, determined to create a home environment for her that was stable, loving, and free from the conditional acceptance I had grown up with. I also started seeing a therapist. Processing the decades of favoritism, manipulation, and emotional neglect was a long and sometimes painful process. Understanding the patterns, recognizing my own role in enabling the dynamic by seeking their approval, was crucial. I grieved the mother-daughter and sisterly relationships I would never have, accepting that they were incapable or unwilling to meet me in a healthy space. It was a necessary grief, allowing me to let go of the fantasy and build relationships based on mutual respect and genuine connection elsewhere. Slowly, painstakingly, I built a new normal. A normal where my worth wasn't tied to my usefulness to others. A normal where my voice mattered. A normal where my boundaries were non-negotiable. My business continued to grow, a testament to my skill, my hard work, and importantly, my newfound ability to protect my energy and focus. My team was fantastic. My clients were happy. I was building something real, something sustainable, something that belonged entirely to me and secured Lena's future. The ex-boss application was a fleeting moment, almost comical in its timing and irony. It was a little punctuation mark on the end of one chapter, the professional recovery. But the real story, the deep, transformative one, was the shedding of the skin I'd worn my whole life, the skin of the compliant, overlooked, useful girl. That was the liberation. That was the reclaiming. I learned that being the good one, the quiet one, the one who never rocked the boat, didn't protect me from pain. It just ensured that my pain was invisible and that I would be exploited by the very people whose love I craved. True protection came from finding my voice, drawing my lines in the sand, and being willing to walk away from relationships, even family ones, that were fundamentally harmful to my well-being. The grandfather clock remained with Clara. I never saw the porcelain figures again either. The physical objects didn't matter. They were just symbols of a much deeper imbalance. What I gained was immeasurable: my self-respect, my peace of mind, my freedom. Sometimes I still think about that version of myself, sitting in the quiet apartment with her newborn, newly fired and utterly lost. I want to reach back and tell her she's stronger than she knows. That the hardest path, the one where you choose yourself, is the one that leads to true freedom. That the people who truly love you will celebrate your boundaries, not resent them. And that building a life where you are seen, valued, and respected starts with seeing, valuing, and respecting yourself, fiercely and without apology. My agency thrives. Lena is a happy, secure child. My home is a place of peace. The quiet corners of my life are no longer hiding pain, but holding space for growth, creativity, and genuine connection. I am Anya, 37, a graphic designer from Leipzig. And I am finally, unapologetically my own. So, that's my story. It's been a journey, to say the least. From being told I didn't have fresh energy, to building my own agency and then, having that same boss apply for a job. But honestly, that was just the spark. The real fire, the real struggle, was breaking free from the chains of family dynamics that had held me captive for decades. It's hard to talk about because it feels so personal, so vulnerable, but I wanted to share it because I know I'm not alone. So many of us, especially women, are conditioned to prioritize others, to be the peacekeepers, the caregivers, the ones who hold it all together, often at our own expense. Learning to say no, to set boundaries, especially with family, is incredibly difficult. It feels counterintuitive, like you're breaking some fundamental rule. And yes, there can be fallout. There can be pain. But on the other side of that pain is freedom. Real, true freedom to be who you are, to build the life you want, without constant pressure and expectation. Your worth isn't tied to how much you sacrifice for others. It just is. You have inherent worth, just by existing. If you're watching this and any part of my story resonates with you, the feeling of being overlooked, the pressure to people please, the struggle with family dynamics, please know that you are not alone. Your feelings are valid. It's okay to put yourself first. It's okay to say no. It's okay to walk away from situations that are hurting you, even if they are family. It's not selfish, it's self-preservation. It's necessary. Finding your voice, setting those boundaries, it's a process. It takes time. It takes courage, and it's not always linear. There will be moments of doubt, of guilt. But keep going. You deserve to be happy, to be seen, to be free. Your energy, your time, your resources, they are valuable. Protect them. Invest them in yourself and in the people who truly cherish you, the people who celebrate your growth, not resent it. If my story helped you feel a little less alone today, or gave you something to think about, please give this video a like. And if you want to hear more stories about navigating these kinds of challenges, consider subscribing to my channel. I'm going to be sharing more about my journey and the lessons I've learned. Thank you for watching, for listening. Remember, you are capable, you are resilient, and you deserve a life that is fully, unapologetically your own. See you next time.